records, directly impacted individuals, loved ones, and concerned service providers all say shame on New York City. Shame for every life lost in barbaric conditions. Shame for every officer allowed to continue to violate minimum standards. And shame for anyone in position of power who falls short in holding DOC responsible and accountable. Now we are going to hear from one of the fierce individuals that is a part of the whole solitary campaign, a true sister, one who is directly impacted, one who continues to show up for others, one who is not afraid to utilize her voice on the record, in the street, and anywhere else in between for our people. Anissa.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are here today to do what?
In
solitary confinement.
Stop your box.
My name is Anissa Sabor. I'm a member of the whole solitary campaign. I'm the current coordinator for Unlock the Box, a national campaign to end solitary confinement in the U.S. And I'm here today for one reason and one reason only. It is to make sure that the Department of Corrections and the Board of Corrections implement Local Law 42. With a supermajority of New York City Council members voted to pass this law, then voted to override the mayor's veto, now the rules must be made. DOC and BOC must get these rules made and implemented before July 31st. It will keep everyone safe, not just incarcerated people, but the entire jail population, including staff. Alternatives, instead of the harsh treatment that they've been using for solitary confinement, must be implemented. The Board of Corrections have the authority to implement these rules so that the Department of Corrections can then follow them. This law will keep everyone safe, on the inside all the way to the outside. This is one thing we must do, and we must do now. We must implement and make the rules for Local Law 42 to save lives. My name is Anissa Sabor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anissa. We thank you, we love you, and we appreciate all the work that you do for us. But it's not enough for just a few of us to continue to hold DOC and New York City accountable. It requires each and every one of us, whether you're listening as you drive by, whether you are waiting till you have a loved one that's directly impacted, whatever your reason might be, to step up on domestic soil and actually care about another heartbeat, please do so. I want you all to think, how much is a human life? What does it take to ignore human lives that are constantly being lost behind correctional walls due to barbaric, inhumane conditions that I personally have witnessed, not while being detained, but while working in various positions? So I know all the truth that these directly impacted individuals often say on the record, at the Board of Corrections, at City Council, to our state elected officials, and for some reason, we are still repeating ourselves. For some reason, we still have people leaving DOC harmed, mentally, physically, financially, forever spiritually scarred. We have individuals returning back to our communities with additional charges because of lies told by officers behind the walls with no accountability. We have a federal monitor that for many, many, many years, since 2015 to be exact, has constantly reported the truth that we have told elected officials for free on the record, year in and year out, and still there is no change. We have changed administration. We have made sure that the people in position to make change look like us, and we are still having trouble receiving justice. My God, where does accountability start? When actually begin? Who should we go to? If the people in charge cannot save a life behind the walls, who do we go to when the grievances of those directly impacted falls on deaf and ignored ears? When we are following every chain of command, when we are following every protocol, what do the people of the United States of America do when no one seems to care? I refuse to stand outside and beg anyone to implement the law. Follow the law!
Follow the law!
This is domestic soil. Everybody has human rights, period. Whether you like them or not, whether you agree with their alleged charges or not, we are in America. Everybody is worthy of humane treatment, medical treatment, and especially being in the custody of DOC. Every part of what you need is their responsibility.
Right.
Whether they like you or not. We're not saying like people, we're saying follow the law. Produce minimum standards. And I want you to listen to someone who often re-traumatizes herself telling her truth. But I don't think enough people have heard it. Because then this floor out here in Foley Square, we full of media ready to tell her story. Candy, the solitary survivor.
Hello everyone, my name is Candy, aka Solitary Survivor. And I use the alias Solitary Survivor because I spent 1,168 days in Rikers Thailand. And out of those 1,168 days, 1,122 days was spent in solitary confinement. Now, 1,122 days is an estimated time because I was in and out of the hospital for suicidal attempts. Yes, I tried to commit suicide almost every day in solitary confinement. By swallowing air, that didn't work. Swallowing industrialized detergent, that didn't work. Cutting my wrist up, that didn't work. Even hanging myself in cells and inside of pens, that didn't work. Every time I tried, God just made me live. I lived for a reason. And the reason why I lived was to fight to end solitary confinement till the day I die. It's not about me. And I feel sorry if I sound like a broken record, constantly coming out here telling my story. But it seems like nobody gives a fuck. Pardon my language.
It's your truth.
Say your truth.
Solitary confinement was supposed to end. And they're breaking the law. I thought breaking the law was illegal. Don't we get incarcerated for breaking the law?
Say that.
Right.
So why are these officials being held accountable for breaking the law? Solitary is torture. I'm here to tell you. Just yesterday I thought about swallowing pills to commit suicide. But I have all these people behind me that love me. And I know they will not want me to do
We
that.
love you, Candy.
And I'm going to fight to end solitary. I was sexually assaulted by the officers. I had a captain put his fingers up my anus. And another officer came to me and said, Haley, I believe you because he was just on leave for raping another inmate. How would I know that? I'm here to speak the truth. Imagine being a woman and you don't get sanitary napkins.
Come on.
I bled all over a cell. I apologize for being grotesque, but I'm just giving you the facts. Imagine being a woman and you don't get sanitary napkins and you take a jumper and you put it there to stop the blood and then you get extra days in solitary confinement for destroying DOC property, which was the jumper.
Come on.
That's not right.
That ain't right.
But I'm here and I'm free and I'm going to fight for everyone that's suffering in solitary confinement until the day I die. And you're going to hear from me every day. Thank you.
Speak that truth. Speak that truth. Love you, Candy.
In 2019, when New York City Council voted to close Rikers, the population was over 40% with a mental health concern. In 2024, that number has risen to well over 51, 52, 53% on any given day. We are incarcerating those who need treatment, not jail.
Treatment, not jail.
Over 80% of those in Rosie's, the facility that houses the women in the non-gender conforming population, has a mental health concern. 21 to 22% of those individuals have serious mental illness. Who are we incarcerating? When we say that 1 out of 4 of those individuals enter detainment already being the survivor of sexual assault, again, who are we incarcerating? Community members that are already triggered and hit with tragedy and harm, that most likely aren't even afforded resources to help heal their trauma holistically. Who are we incarcerating? When many of those same individuals have been sex trafficked, entered DOC around DV concerns and issues because we lack community resources. Again, it's very easy to divert those who need assistance if the resources was there in the community to assist them. It is very easy to understand why most people who end up in solitary confinement have a mental health concern, and DOC is not equipped to understand those mental health concerns or treatments or needs. DOC officers most of the time can't even tell you a symptom of someone decompensating, but they know how to write everything up as being insubordinate, breaking a rule or a law, rather than understanding mental health concerns and needs. I am not about to lose my mind standing outside screaming another rally, begging someone to hear us. We have so many tools at our hands as we the people. And one of the first things is voting those who do not move towards justice out of office.
Right.
I encourage everybody standing around me and beside me to understand the power that you truly hold in each and every one of your districts. And if your elected officials do not hear your cries, your calls of concern for your community members, for those you work for, you service, for those you care about and advocate for, it is time for us to show them what collective power on domestic soil truly feels and looks like.
Say that.
Right.
We have a mayor that only says, I will follow the law, and it is time that we spank him into understanding what following the law truly means.
Right.
We have elected officials that tiptoe around the truth because it's an election year, because they are afraid to offend others. And I'm here to state as myself that I will personally organize in your district, you out of office, if you do not step up and be concerned about all New Yorkers, because everybody in the 5 boroughs is each of your constituents.
Right.
Whether they're on Rikers, whether they're in a borough-based facility, jail, or any other place. And we need to hear a male perspective. So Darren.
Come on, Darren! Darren!
Come on, Darren.
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Darren Mack and I'm a member of the Jails Action Coalition. So we're standing here today because the Jails Action Coalition, the whole solitary campaign, you know, we are all in agreement. We're all in line with the United Nations Commission Against Torture that proposed that solitary confinement is torture and should be banned. So thanks to the Jails Action Coalition, otherwise known as JAC, the whole solitary confinement campaign, advocates and allies, and concerned New Yorkers. Right. City Council adopted and passed legislation, Local Law 42, which finally bans solitary confinement in New York City jails. Local Law 42 takes effect July 28th. And in order to end the torture of solitary confinement in our city and prevent the loss of another life, to prevent the torture of another human being, the Department of Corrections must prepare now for the implementation of this law. Right. The Board of Corrections, they must update its rules in order to comply with Local Law 42. And we are urging the Board of Corrections today, which is having a hearing today, we are urging the Board of Corrections to move forward with rulemaking now so that the rules are in effect by July 28th. Thousands of family members who have their loved ones on Rikers Island right now are urging the city, Department of Corrections, the Board of Corrections to move forward with implementation of this law so we can finally end the suffering and the torture and prevent more deaths that happens in the New York City jail system. And I also want to remind people, there's a lot of media out here today, and just recently, someone asked me my thoughts, a journalist asked me my thoughts about Trump going to Rikers Island. And I believe that no one should be on Rikers Island.
That's right.
Not even Trump. Because it's a pre-trial detention complex that's nothing about rehabilitation. It's nothing about accountability. It's all about punishment, torture, and death.
That's right. Say that.
So we need the city to move forward with expediting the closure of Rikers Island. Right now, moving forward with ending solitary confinement, and that's why we're here standing together. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So many tears have went into pushing local law 42 to become a reality. So many mothers we had to stand next to as they lost their loved ones, sisters as they lost their brothers in solitary. Even things with showers that they said wasn't solitary. So many different names that all lead back to solitary confinement. The city owes us. This is not a new bill. This is not a new issue. The city owes those lives that they could never bring back. Officers are on record laughing at Laylene. This is not a little problem. This is a systemic issue. This is an issue that we cannot fix by simply firing or letting go of a handful of bad apples. This is a mindset that is deeply rooted and embedded within a system for decades with a lack of accountability. That is why we needed the law. That is why the law was overridden January 30th from the veto by City Council, because they know their constituents need this to survive. They know even this law is the bare minimum that's being required to preserve human life. I want to call somebody that represents the very person who pushed this bill forward for us, for the people of New York, from the public advocate's office. I want Jeffrey to come up because the public advocate was the lead individual on this bill, along with City Council making sure that it got through. And I want to again publicly thank the Speaker for making sure that this bill, among two others, that the city did not want us to unite as a community on, but we all needed across the board. How many stops was needed? Fair chance for housing was needed, and ending solitary confinement, Intro 549, was needed. And they cover many issues that the community suffers from, but they all seem to boil around law enforcement, control, and a lack of accountability. And I want to thank the Speaker for making sure that the City of New York had the opportunity to be heard on the same day. And City Council rose up and voted for the people of New York to lives to be saved, lives to be protected, and for us not to longer just be preyed upon and our communities are hunted down by NYPD without a lack of accountability when it comes to the data for just that. All these things have a hand in hand. Because if we're preyed on a community, we end up in barbaric conditions behind the walls. And we know from many stories that youth might die even 3 days of entering DOC, not even fully getting out of intake.
Right.
2 years ago, that was Mr. Carter's story. We know from DOC that you don't even have to die. You could be left paralyzed after officers jump you. We heard about that last year in May. There are so many stories left untold, and many times people are bullied into silence. But we thank the public advocate for standing strong, even against unions and everybody else in the city who wants to rise up and say that ain't right. We said no. What is right is preserving life. What is right is those in position of power following laws and minimum standards, and I'm going to make sure that that is so. Jeffrey, please come on down and speak for the people of New York.
Thank you so much, Dr. B. Once again, my name is Jeffrey Severe. I'm Deputy Public Advocate for Justice and Safety, and I represent the Office of New York City Public Advocate Jemani D. Williams. the lead sponsor on what was commonly known as Intro 549, the bill to ban solitary confinement, is now known as Local Law 42.
That's right.
And we're standing here today before we will enter into the Board of Corrections hearing to make sure that the New York City Board of Corrections, whose job it is to make rulemaking for the Department of Corrections, is actively working so the department can implement Local Law 42. The board is charged with making sure that the local law is in compliance with what the department has to do, and we're just here to just consistently make sure that the board is doing what they're supposed to do and the department is accountable. Because what we have in the past is the department not being accountable to what the city of New York is saying. Because again, they're supposed to be in charge of the care, custody, and control of the people who are at Rikers Island and New York City jails. And that has not been happening. And that is why we and the City Council, and thankful again to the Speaker of the New York City Council, Adrian Adams, for helping us to push and make sure that Local Law 42 passed. We had to pass it twice. That was because there was so much energy around it and so much misinformation. But we're thankful that we reached this place that we were able to actually grow the majority that passed and overrode the mayor's veto. We're very thankful for the city of New York for standing with us. We're very thankful for the council members for standing with us. And now we need the Board of Corrections to do what they're supposed to do. And it's to make an effective rulemaking. And then after that, we need to make sure that we hold the Department of Corrections accountable to execute and implement that rule. So again, just thank you to everyone who continues to come out. I want to make sure that we thank the Jails Action Coalition, the Halt Solitary Campaign. We want to also make sure we thank Freedom Agenda. Also remember that we are actively working to make sure that the New York City keeps to the timeline of closure of Rikers Island, because this is just one part of what's going on at the New York City jails, is to end solitary confinement. But we also know that Rikers Island should not be open, and it should not be open past 2027. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that continuously happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeffrey!
Yeah.
All right. Definitely.
And as we have to all get ready to go inside for the hearing today, unfortunately, we just want to wrap up and say we are here for everyone who needs us, for every family member that's ever been hurt by VOC, harmed, whether it's present time or in the past. We understand that triggers and traumas happen whenever they happen. Sometimes you come outside and you still will be triggered by the slightest thing because of your own trauma. And we understand it. And we're telling you that we are a family because we didn't have no choice but to become one. And we dare the city of New York to step up and take hold of accountability and push measures. We dare the Board of Corrections to do what is right and start beginning the process of rulemaking. We invite the mayor of New York to follow Local Law 42 and implement it on time, because as he loves to say, he follows the law, and he is our mayor of New York City. So New York City local lawmakers have decided that Local Law 42 is a must, have voted time and time again that it shall be law, and it is the law. So we are telling the Board of Corrections and the Mayor of New York City and the Department of Corrections to get ready to implement Local Law 42. And if you need any advice on how to do so, please reach out to the Jail Action Coalition and Halt Solitary Campaign, and we will be sure to assist you, as we always have been ready to do so for the last decade. Peace and blessings, everyone. Okay, so no more solitary confinement. You better come on before CA. No solitary confinement. The voice of people is quiet. No more solitary confinement. The voice of freedom ain't quiet. Mayor, Board of Corrections, hear us now. Solitary confinement. The voice of freedom ain't quiet. Mayor, Board of Corrections, hear us now.
Hear us now.
All right, and so we don't have the mayor right now, but we got somebody that has his ear, and somebody who also is responsible for the bill that we just spoke about. So we want the city of New York to understand local law 42 is not a thought, it is not an idea, it is the law, and I want to bring the man responsible for pushing this forward to preserve life and minimum standards for the people of New York, Public Advocate Jamani Williams.
Thank you, Dr. B. Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone. And it's interesting that you mentioned minimum standards, because actually everybody agrees that one of the top reasons for violence in the jails is detainees not receiving their minimum standards. And that's if you speak to the advocates, if you speak to corrections officers, anybody, everyone will agree that receiving minimum standards helps bring the violence down, which has been something we've been pointing out for a very long time. Now when it comes to local law 42, what I want to make sure we're clear on folks who listen to what we're saying and who may have questions. It's very simple. The only thing we said that you cannot use to change behavior, to try to address a concern, is sustained isolation. That's all. There are so many other tools, so many other ways that a jail system can work and operate that does not use sustained isolation. Because everyone also agrees that isolation harms individuals, that it causes permanent damage to individuals, that it causes damage that people throughout their lifetime struggle to overcome from. And now imagine if that can happen to a person who does not suffer from acute mental health issues. If you have someone who does have acute mental health issues, which is a large part of the population at Rikers, also something everyone agrees with, what if you put that person in sustained isolation? And what we do know now is that there is violence, unfortunately, on Rikers Island. No one is safe, detainees or corrections officers. In the past year and more, if you go through our news cycle in our papers, you will see time and time again of violence occurring and people being harmed. That's not because of local law 42, because local law 42 is not even in effect. And what we are saying is the systems that we've been using have not worked, have not stopped the violence that's occurring. And so what we are saying is if you want something new, you have to do something new. Local law 42 is now the law. We've already had this conversation. We've already adjudicated within the city council. You've already pushed back as an administration and mayor, and we got it done. It is the law. We don't want to have this fight again. So all we're asking is that you please push forward the rules that are commensurate with what our law says. This city's administration has created new housing after new housing after new housing. It can be done. You've seen it get done. Please do it again so that the thing that we all agree with, which is sustained isolation, not being helpful, is something that we don't have to worry about being on. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings. Love and light.
Thank you. That's right. And remember what the PA is saying. Separation, not isolation. That is absolutely key when we're talking about safety behind the wall. And you will follow local law 42. Now let's get ready for this hearing. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings, Dr. B.
And solitary.
And solitary.